but there's still an opportunity because I think anything below 200K per Bitcoin is still a steal. But I think if people recognize Bitcoin as an alternative and it is like a practical replacement, I don't see them switching. It's just like the CBDC in Nigeria never took off. You could almost use the CBDC as a proxy for a currency reset. Are people going to use it? And I think even in China, people aren't willing to use the CBDC. They're still sticking with, WeChat Pay and Alipay, which is like a digital wrapper around the RMB. But we'll see. I mean, it'd be interesting to watch and see if any country right now, like in the next year or so, that does try to issue a new currency can succeed in doing so. I think Bitcoin has reached enough market saturation and the infrastructure around it, like wallets and everything, are at the point at which it could just take over.
Yeah.
Samson Mow starts off with a strong and urgent statement. Bitcoin is headed straight for $1 million. His arguments are grounded in the cold math of demand, debt, and deficits rather than in hyperbole. Money printing is speeding up, governments are drowning in record-breaking debt, and conventional assets like bonds are losing their appeal as safe havens. Institutional adoption through corporate balance sheets and ETFs is also causing a supply shock that the market cannot ignore. Bitcoin is the way out of the current financial system, which Samson says is about to collapse. If you're intrigued by bold predictions and deep financial insights, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more engaging content. Thank you for your support and enjoy the video.
If no one's buying treasuries and the debt is ballooning, something's got to give eventually. I think the banking regulations were just changed. I saw something come out today, and the banks are even held to having less reserves for everything. So it's like they're tinkering with the mechanics of the system right now to alleviate stress on the system, which is constantly building. And maybe stablecoins will stave it off for a year if they push for adoption of stablecoins and they're using stablecoins as a proxy to sell debt. But even that's just kicking the can. But all those trillions of unfunded liabilities have to come due.
Bitcoin dislodges that logic in my mind yet.
Well, I think they're going to fight and try to maintain power over the printing press for various reasons, like for their view of why it's good for society. But I think if people recognize Bitcoin as an alternative and it is like a practical replacement, I don't see them switching. It's just like the CBDC in Nigeria never took off. You could almost use the CBDC as a proxy for a currency reset. Are people going to use it? And I think even in China, people aren't willing to use the CBDC. They're still sticking with WeChat Pay and Alipay, which is like a digital wrapper around the RMB. But we'll see. I mean, it'd be interesting to watch and see if any country right now, like in the next year or so, that does try to issue a new currency can succeed in doing so, because I think Bitcoin has reached enough market saturation and the infrastructure around it, like wallets and everything, are at the point at which it could just take over.
Yeah.
They need to understand that they should hold their own assets. And it's a big gap going from your money's in your bank and it's safe, quote unquote, to I need to keep my own money and take responsibility for that completely on my own, 100%, and if it is lost or stolen, it's gone for good. And that chasm is a big chasm. And I don't know if there's a shortcut to get there, and I don't even know if we can fully bridge that just by making better Bitcoin wallets. It just might be a natural phenomenon that takes time. Like one thing I think helped for Canada was when the government declared martial law and started freezing bank accounts. And I think that educated a lot of Canadians into realizing, well, I probably need some insurance in the form of Bitcoin, which cannot be frozen, because that was unprecedented, but it showed how fragile the traditional system is. Like the government can just say, okay, you're a terrorist now because you donated to this convoy protesting lockdowns and mandated vaccine injections. And that is pretty shocking to most people, that in a Western country, liberal democracy, that you can have this type of totalitarian, authoritarian acts happening. And it can happen anywhere. But outside of that, if that didn't happen, I would say a lot of people wouldn't understand that or cross that chasm. But because it happened, they did. So it's almost like you have to have that pain before you will move out of your comfort zone. There's a lot of underfunded liabilities, and that's got to come to a head very soon, outside of everything else that's happening with Bitcoin, right? So it feels like we're coming to a head for everything. You have massive demand from all of these treasury companies buying, MicroStrategy, you have ETFs now with like 1.3 million and more coming in. Like there's a massive imbalance of money coming in versus coming out. Like flows are net positive for ETFs. Then if nation states come into the fray and that hits a point at which, debt is no longer able to be sold, like the US treasuries, they're having a hard time selling them now, which is also why they're turning to stable coins. And you have unfunded liabilities coming to due. What happens? Something happens there. Something spectacular.
Samson Mow delivers a sharp critique of Ryan Cohen's much-hyped investment strategy. Cohen raised plenty of money, built up investor excitement, and even drew comparisons to Berkshire Hathaway. Many expected him to make a bold move into Bitcoin, but he didn't. According to Mow, that was a major mistake. Cohen not only failed to commit, but also passed on perfect buying opportunities during market dips. To make matters worse, he even met with Michael Saylor, one of Bitcoin's biggest advocates, and still chose not to act. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and enable post notifications for future Bitcoin, macroeconomic, and digital asset content before we go any further. Now, let's get into his powerful predictions.
I think like a strategy type company where they have very minimal risk and all of their converts and everything are very far out will be fine. But some of the smaller companies that are trading at a huge multiple right now to MNAV, which are not as well positioned as strategy is, could blow up. It's got to get to the point where it's career risk not to get into Bitcoin. And I think a lot of them also are waiting for someone else to make a move, specifically the US. That's why I'm very bullish or grateful for the movements in the US, because that makes our job a lot easier, because we'll just say, like, look at the US, right? Like Korea will look at the US, Japan will look at the US, Taiwan will look at the US. And you saw that with the ETFs. And I think when the US does something seriously with accumulating for their Bitcoin reserve, everyone else will follow. So we're just kind of priming all the different actors in Asia to wait for that. And when it happens, we'll go back and say it's time to execute on what we talked about. Strategic reserve, the executive order for that, and new developments is probably the most interesting aspect of nation state adoption right now. Mm-hmm. But you do see follow-on with that. Like Pakistan announced that they're setting up their own strategic reserve. They appointed Saylor. I haven't fact-checked that.
I haven't seen anything verified on that.
I've seen it, but I haven't verified it.
Yeah.
So take that with a grain of salt that he's their advisor now. But it's whether the US makes a big move, like a really tangible move, like passing the Bitcoin Act and actively accumulating Bitcoin, I think that is going to be the next big driver for nation state adoption. But we'll see like little bits and pieces happening here and there. And we do have our engagements and we're trying to move things along, but it's difficult. Like if you think of it as a normal person, where does Bitcoin stack up in your attention span in a given day? It's probably like, towards the bottom somewhere. It's the same for countries. Like they're always focused on some higher level drama, like Iran and Israel right now, probably top of mind. But it's difficult to kind of get them to prioritize something. But one silver lining, I think, of the Bitcoin treasury companies is that they're elevating that in the awareness. Like in Japan, we engaged with a number of politicians there. Metaplanet definitely has picked up on all of their radars. We cannot not pick up on Metaplanet. Altcoins becoming Bitcoin treasury companies, that reminds me of FTX, right? Like, why did FTX blow up?
FTX more than Luna?
Probably, because FTX, what it was they were using FTT, their token, as a backstop and equivocating it with, as a real asset, even though they printed it. So I think the danger there is if you have something similar set up with an altcoin, like, what is it, Cardano, they're also talking about doing something too. It just blows our mind that
we're all Bitcoiners now.
Yeah, everyone's a Bitcoiner. But I mean, most altcoins are created to get Bitcoin. So it's not that far from the origin, right? But presenting it as a publicly traded Bitcoin treasury company, that is scary to me. What could be to come?
Samson Mow closes with some powerful insights on where Bitcoin adoption is heading, especially at the government level. He explains that one of the most important developments right now is the idea of Bitcoin strategic reserves, similar to how nations hold gold or oil for security. According to Samson, the US may be the true game changer. Like ETFs, the United States would set the standard for the rest of the world if it passed legislation similar to the Bitcoin Act and started formally collecting Bitcoin. This discourse is already being advanced by smaller actions like executive orders, bipartisan talks, and the rise in political attention given to Bitcoin-friendly businesses. However, he cautions that not all adoptions are beneficial. The attempt by several altcoins to reinvent themselves as Bitcoin treasury companies makes him think of the risky arrangement that led to FTX's demise, when they used their own printed tokens as though they were actual reserves. Mow makes it apparent that Bitcoin is unique since it is a real limited worldwide asset, but assuming altcoins are all the same could have disastrous consequences. Using Ryan Cohen as an example of what not to do, he builds expectations, raises money, and then, despite meeting with Michael Saylor, he does not commit to Bitcoin. According to Samson, this is a fear-driven hesitancy and a hugely lost chance to get Bitcoin at a price that is still below $200,000, which he believes is a great deal. In the end, Samson is cautiously optimistic. He believes Bitcoin will continue to gain traction, both among corporations and nation-states, but the process will be uneven and politically complicated. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and enable notifications if you thought his viewpoint was helpful so you don't miss any updates. We'd love to know what you think about the future of cryptocurrency markets, so please share your ideas in the comments section. We appreciate your time and hope to see you in the next video.